Hello, Rob. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being with us in studio today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
So Rob Kaplan is the founder and CEO of Circulate Capital, and we are really honored to have him today in our studio. Rob, you mentioned in our casual chat that you are Northeastern American,
Yes.
and you now have a VC firm in Singapore. So wanted to understand a little bit more on what brought you to Singapore and what inspired you to start an impact investment firm here.
Yeah. As pretty much every career choice I've made has been guided by one question, which is where can I make the most impact? Back in 2017, 2018, that's when the topic of plastic pollution really exploded. And it was no longer just a blip on the radar. It was suddenly a top priority for CEOs and prime ministers and consumers all around the world. And it happened really fast. And I found myself in kind of a unique situation where I had actually been developing a strategy, an investment strategy that was kind of ready to go. And I had a unique set of relationships with potential investors and the team to pull it off. And so as I was thinking about it, it was kind of a no-brainer to make the leap and go for it. And a few years ago, some research came out that found that most of the plastic that gets into the ocean comes from a handful of countries in South and Southeast Asia. And if we invest in waste and recycling and the circular economy infrastructure here, we could cut that flow of plastic pollution in half. So that's why we created Circulate Capital. That was our founding insight. And now we have a $100 million investment fund that's focused on investing in companies and technologies that prevent that flow of plastic into the ocean.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the kind of investments you're making into some of these countries?
Yeah, so we consider ourselves full value chain investors when we're trying to address this problem, which means we're looking at innovative materials and business models that prevent the need for single-use plastic in the first place. But most of our investments and all of our investments to date have been after waste is generated. So companies that are helping collect, sort, process, and manufacture using plastic waste to pull it out of the environment and instead put it into the supply chains of some of our key partners. So our fund is backed by companies like Coca-Cola, Unilever, Danone, Procter & Gamble, PepsiCo, and several others.
And how does that typically work? So you mentioned about circular economy and you're talking about the end-to-end supply chain process of plastic disposal and so forth. How do you decide whether a particular investment that you're making in a company is a good investment?
Waste management and recycling might be one of the world's oldest businesses. I mean, we had waste management companies probably 1,000 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
So as we've looked at this space, there's really not a ton of complexity with the companies we're assessing. So a lot of it ends up being pretty standard due diligence questions around the team. Are they people we can work with and we can trust? Business model, financial model, how's the market approaching? And then when we layer in the impact side, we're looking at how many tons of plastic pollution can we prevent and how quickly? We're looking at, are we reducing greenhouse gas and improving climate change as part of this investment? And then there are three key risk areas that are really important for us. The feedstock, do we know that the material can get into that facility? Operational risk, can they process it at scale? And do we believe that that growth is possible? And then offtake, can we make sure that the material they're processing and pulling out of the environment can connect into the global supply chains of our corporate partners?
Can you give an example of an investment that you have made and how you have supported them through the journey as they are going through the growth trajectory?
Yeah. Well, one company that we're very excited about is called Recycle. They're in India, and they are focused on digitizing the waste value chain. So as you may expect, there hasn't been a lot of disruption in waste and recycling over that 1,000-year period we were talking about, right? So getting actionable, insightful, real-time data is nearly impossible. A lot of the time, you're making decisions on information you had is actually a month or a quarter old. And one of the big barriers that's holding back the system is traceability, right? If you are a global corporation looking to procure a recycled material, you kind of need to know where it came from. And you also want to know that children weren't involved in it. And so that kind of assurance and traceability is really critical to enable this whole supply chain to work. And that's where Recycle comes in. They're bringing a digital payment program through so you can actually track how that material, where it came from, and making sure that the people who actually deserve that money get it. And then when you have their final end product, you can find out where it came from.
Wow, impressive. And are there any projects that you're looking to invest in Southeast Asia? Can you give us any kind of background that might be very helpful for our startups in case they're interested to apply as well?
Yeah. So Southeast Asia is a huge priority for us. We expect to invest about half of our fund in Southeast Asia. Indonesia is one of the highest plastic leaking countries across the region and actually around the world. So we're very interested in finding ways to invest in companies that can improve collection of material, and especially sachets and flexible film packaging. So a lot of consumer goods are actually packaged in single-use pouches called sachets, and it's incredibly challenging to recycle those and collect those. So we're looking for solutions specifically targeted at flexibles.
How important is tech for you when you are thinking of evaluating companies? Because if you think about a lot of innovations that are coming from the startups, tech is beginning to play a very critical role.
We are really focused on solutions that are tech-enabled, but we do understand that waste is a real-world problem, and so it needs to be managed in the physical space. But almost all of the companies we look at are using some kind of technology platform, whether it's Recycle, I mentioned it's a full digital platform, but or companies that are using facial recognition to understand how who's actually showing up and dropping off recycled material from the informal sector and being able to pay them directly through mobile payments or digital payments. We also are looking at some companies that are applying artificial intelligence to the sorting system and image recognition so that you can understand exactly what material is coming in and exactly what material is coming out. And we also are looking at more like deep technology type opportunities as well these days, synthetic biology and other technology platforms that can start to develop innovative materials for bioplastics and compostable plastics that we might not have access to today through conventional means.
I'm just thinking, how can companies like Microsoft potentially partner with you as you are thinking of embarking on this journey and expanding your vision beyond just Southeast Asia?
Yeah. So one of the reasons we're super excited to be collaborating and potentially partnering with Microsoft is we share a common goal of connecting SMEs and startups into these much larger ecosystems. We're working with a lot of these large brands that are also Microsoft clients. So how do we connect those dots and make them stronger to benefit the solution providers on the ground?
So Rob, my final question, and I think this is more for the startups that we work with. What is your advice that you would give, not just as a VC, but also as a founder, that would potentially help our startups to grow and accelerate, and even look for the right kind of VC firms which would potentially help them scale and grow their business?
Well, one piece of advice I always give founders is don't forget about the fundamentals, especially in a sustainability-driven business. And the unfortunate thing is that startups that are focusing on sustainability are held to a double standard. You have to make money and improve the environment. And sustainability should be an enhancement, not a sacrifice.
Love it. So focus on the fundamentals and think of sustainability as an enhancement. Those are the two key takeaways that I would take from what you said. Thank you so much, Rob. It was absolutely fantastic to have you. Now, before you go, we have 5 rapid fire questions that we have prepared for you, because we have known you as a VC and we have known you as a founder of Circulate Capital, but we would love to know a little bit more about you as Rob. So we have 5 questions, and you have to answer in 1 word each. If you could go back in time, what year would you travel to?
1984.
Why is that?
I thought you said 1 word. That's the year that
Curious.
Karate Kid, Ghostbusters, and The Terminator came out.
Awesome. What's the best gift you have ever given?
Most recently, I think if you ask my kids, I just bought them a whole bunch of mine coins for their Minecraft, and that's been a huge hit. Earned a lot of credit for that.
I can imagine. I love Minecraft. If you could share a meal with 2 individuals, living or dead, who would they be?
Probably my great-grandmothers on both sides.
Ah, nice choice. Who would you like to play you in a movie of your life?
This one is pretty tough. I think director would probably be J.J. Abrams, because I get confused with him all the time. That's the one Hollywood character person that I often get. Otherwise, maybe like Adam Sandler, something like that.
Do you love or hate roller coasters?
I'm a lover.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Rob. It was absolutely wonderful to speak with you. I learned so much, and I'm sure our audience also got an opportunity to learn a little bit more from you as a VC, and also how we can think about investing and working with companies that are focused on impact investments.
Well, thank you for your time and for leading this web series. I can't wait to see the rest of them.